Okay. Right. Morning, David. Right. There's one more part of the Farbrengen that we began, the Rebbe's first Farbrengen after the previous Rebbe's passing in Parshas Lecha. And in this little small sikha, very powerful but very short message, the Rebbe says that there's a discourse from the previous Rebbe, from Parshas Lecha Tafesh Pevav, which was be 1926, where the previous Rebbe explains there's a teaching of the Talmud. There are four things that can tear up a decree against you in heaven. Four things: staka, crying or screaming, changing your name, changing your deeds, and some say also changing your place. And what's the source that changing your place also could tear away any decree against you in heaven? How do we know that? Because it says in the Torah that God told Avram, Lecha, Avram had to leave his place in order to change his destiny. And the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, explains that even if there's a decree against you, not because of mazel or whatever, but there's a decree against you because of a sin, nevertheless, by changing your place, that could also, all these things are effective. Changing your name, staka, crying, changing your deeds. So that explains the spiritual meaning of these four items, or five items.
He was changing your profession.
No, not changing your profession. Sorry, Doc. You're still there. All right. First of all, staka is the idea of davening as well. Why does staka mean davening? It says in the pasuk, Rashi quotes this in Shabbos, page 127b, Goimel nafshe ish chesed. A man of kindness does benevolence to his soul. When you pray, you're doing kindness to your neshama. It's kind of like the opposite of the story of Hillel. You know how Hillel said when he was going to eat, he's going to do kindness with the shamed and embarrassed one in his body. He meant his Yetzer Hara, his animal soul. When he would eat, he wasn't doing kindness to himself. He was doing kindness to the animal soul into the body, which never gets any attention, and it's like Hillel. But when we go daven, we're the ones who are doing kindness to our neshama, because our neshama doesn't get as much attention as our animal soul does. So that's why davening is called an act of kindness. The Gemara also says that anyone who says, all I have is Torah, but I'm not interested in anything else, the Gemara says you don't have Torah either. You have to have other things with Torah, and they are davening and Torah. Besides just the Gemara says Torah and kindness, and Chassidus explains that the word kindness also means davening. Again, because davening is a kindness to your neshama. So that's one thing that can change any decree against you. A second thing is crying. The word crying is just like why do we cry? We cry when something is beyond us, like something we can't understand, or something that is very sad or very happy, brings us to tears. So the spiritual counterpart of crying is being devoted to Hashem in a way that is beyond what makes sense, beyond what logic says. That's crying spiritually. Doesn't mean you're actually crying or screaming. It means you're being devoted to what you're doing in a way that's just like when you cry, it's something which is beyond what your mind can handle. So crying means that you're devoted to what Hashem wants you to be doing beyond logic and reason. That's a second thing that can take away any decree against you. The third thing, Shtus Kedusha. Yeah, Shtus Kedusha. Exactly. A third thing is changing your deeds. So the Rebbe says for us specifically, I guess referring to the students in the yeshiva in 770 and the Chassidim who were present at the Farbrengen, learning Chassidus in a way that is aliba de nafshe. What aliba de nafshe mean? Libud nafshi means you're learning it in a way that you find it relevant for you, and you're making it applicable to you. You're applying it to yourself. And those who are studying in yeshiva, Zev just turned the screen off. He's against that. What do you mean? That's the whole point, is that should apply to you. So not just you should study the order that is given in the yeshiva, the seder, the regular regimen that's given in the yeshiva, rather you should learn in a way that you go beyond the order of the yeshiva. So by learning Hasidus in this way, this will automatically bring us to change our place. Remember, there's a fourth thing that can change your decrees against you when you move to a different place. If I will learn Hasidus in a way that I apply it to myself, I will move away from where I am spiritually. I'm here right now because I'm not learning Hasidus in a personal way that applies to me and changing myself. But if I did, I would be doing what the Gemara says is another way to change any decree against me, and that is to move to a new place. Where am I? Just like there are many countries in the world that you like to visit, you haven't visited, or you wouldn't like to visit. Many places in the world you haven't been to, right? So too, it says in the Torah, it's not in Disneyland, it's in the Torah, that every person is a small world. It's possible to live in a little village in your brain. And you're just angry at the world, you're upset, and you're bitter. You're not really getting in touch with who you are. You're not getting in touch with your inside, with your goodness. So moving your place spiritually means that you learn Chassidus in a way that it matters to you, in a way that affects you, and that will bring you to a new place, to where you're welcome to Zev Kessler. And by changing your place, the Rebbe says this will give you a different name. What's the name? Then you could really be called a chassid. So if I change my deeds, which means I learn chassidus in a way that's personal, this will affect me that I will change my place. Am I changing my place? It will also affect my title. That doesn't explain why changing your title is something more. Perhaps my conjecture over here. It's possible that I could change my place and just visit somewhere. Today is not Monday, and Zev Kessler is not against Tuesday or Wednesday. They're okay days. So I'm in a good mood. I'm going to do my Jewish thing today because today is one of my Jewish days, right? But changing my title means that not just I'm visiting this space, that I'm the spiritual space, because today I learn Chassidus in a way that's meaningful, but this has become my title. This has become the way I naturally am. I'm now a resident of this new place that I have discovered. Perhaps that's the addition of the title Chassid beyond changing your place. It's not just you're changing your place, but it becomes who you are. The previous Rebbe said that there are some people who think that they could just like this, just tap on their finger, and they understand while they're davening, and they understand something in Chassidus, and they are then a Chassid. That's not true. The Rebbe said that a chassid is someone who davens at length, learns chassidus in a way that's personal, and keeps the shiurim of chitas rama. So by changing our deeds, which brings us to change our place, changing our level, automatically our name will change, and we'll be able to be called Chasidim, Chasid Chabad, and then we'll be able to do the mission that the Alter Rebbe gave us to spread the wellsprings to the outside. That's the essence of Yutas Kislev. And the Rebbe is mentioning Yutas Kislev again because the Rebbe said he wants all the Chassidim to bring 10 Jews closer to Hashem in their thoughts, words, and actions by 19th of Kislev. Okay, and very soon, Mamish, the Rebbe should lead us to greet Mashiach Tzidkeinu, Amen Kein Ratzon. That's the conclusion of this Farbrengen. And I want to now go on to any questions that we did so far? Okay. I want to go on now to learn a discourse of the Rebbe from the 11th of Cheshvan of 1965. Hashem said to Abraham, leave your land, leave your birthplace, leave your father's house, and go to a land that I will show you. And Rashi explains, you should go to you. What is the word to you adding? Should travel. What's go to you? Rashi explains to you means for you. Go for your benefit, go for your goodness. And it's known the question about this, why is it that God had to tell Abraham to go for his benefit and for his goodness? Why wouldn't it be sufficient for Abraham to travel for the sake of God's commandment? Why did Hashem have to add, this is something that you'll enjoy too? So there's a Maamar of the Tzemach Tzedek, one of the booklets that was recently brought out of imprisonment. That's the title that we will give to a booklet of Hasidus that was never discovered before and in Russia, and it was never was able to be used by anyone. So booklet arrived to the Rebbe. It was just released from imprisonment, and it says in this discourse like this: the Alshich says that the word Lech Lecha, go to you, means go to yourself, not for you. Like Rashi says, the Alshich says go to your essence, as we were discussing earlier today, to go to that, not to live in that little village in your brain, but to go to your real essence, to go to the source of your neshama the way it is in heaven. Because it's known that we don't have the entire neshama in our body. Only a tiny ray of the neshama has ascended to this world. But the lion's share of the neshama remains in heaven. Because in Kedusha, there's no such thing as total departure. You get on a plane, you left, you're not there anymore. In holiness, it doesn't work that way. Everything that's holy never loses its original space. So regarding the neshama, its main place is heaven. That's where it comes from. Only a little bit of the neshama descends to the body. And in order to reach the essence and the source of the neshama, is specifically by going to Israel, which is parallel to the supernal land of Israel in heaven. Zev, stop thinking about the Waldorf. We're going to explain what going to Israel means spiritual. Okay. And this is the meaning of go to you, go to yourself, go to yourself, go to the land of Israel. What's the connection between going to yourself and going to the land of Israel? Because outside of Israel, you cannot reach the source of your neshama. But when you go to Israel, then you're able to connect to the source of your neshama. Why is this? Because the source of the neshama is in the world of unity, in the world of Atzilus, in the world of oneness. And as the Tzemach Tzedek adds in a note in this discourse, that although most souls come from the lower three worlds, Bria Tzia Sia, but the source of all souls is in Atzilus. But what that means is, so every soul comes from Atzilus originally. And just like I was saying before about you could stop off in a place that's not your residence. So we all originate in Atzilus, but because of moving to the world of Bria in a way that we get stationed there for a while spiritually, meaning we're changed by the experience in the lower worlds. So our new identity, our new passport, our new citizenship, if you will, is in the world of Bria or Yetzirah or Asiya. So all souls originate in Atzilus, but then the neshamas identify it based upon the various worlds that they go through, depending on what happens to that particular soul. But in order to reach the source of the neshama, the way the neshama is in Atzilus, for that you have to go to Israel. And Tzemach Tzedek explains, in order to explain what this means, why, in order to get to my soul in Atzilus, I have to reach Israel. We'll understand this by first prefacing the meaning of the second day of Yantif. There are 2 days of Yantif outside of Israel. And it says in Chassidus, Kabbalah, that on the second day of Yantif, outside Yosef, on the second day of Yantif, the divine light of Hashem descends to the level of Malchus, of Yitzir Nasiya. And that divine energy, which goes to the lowest two worlds, the lowest part of those lower two worlds, descends further to what is called the 70 ministers. Every country, there are 70 generic 70 main countries of the world, and each of these countries has a ministering angel. So the divine light of Hashem that is revealed on Yantif, on the second day of Yantif, it descends to the Jews outside of Israel, because it doesn't just go to how does it reach those Jews? The divine light is vested within these 70 ministering angels outside of the 70 ministering angels, not just to Atzilus, Bria, Yitzia, but even to the level of the 70 ministering angels after going down to the Malchus of Yitzir Nasi. Before we go further, I just want to share another talk on this subject, which gives some insight to what we're going to say. The Alter Rebbe once said that the Jews in Israel are like a smart student. A smart student doesn't need a lot of time to absorb information. So too the Jews in Israel. They're able to absorb the entire Yantif in one day. But the Jews outside of Israel, they're like a less sophisticated, less smart student, and they need 2 days to fully absorb the light of the Yantif. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. But the Rebbe says, as we'll see in this discourse, a similar sentiment, in order to convey a idea to a less gifted student, the teacher has to be more gifted. The teacher has to be a better teacher to convey that information to someone who's not able to get it so quickly. So precisely because the Jews outside of Israel, their vessels, their ability to absorb spirituality is compromised, the source of the divine energy that goes to those Jews outside of Israel on the second day of Yantif has a higher source. So while it reaches a lower place, precisely because of that indicates that it comes from a higher source. Okay, back into the discourse. It's known that the lowest level of Atzilus, Malchus of Atzilus, is unable to be vested within these 70 ministering angels of the nations. Even the Malchus of the world beneath Atzilus, the world of Bria, is also unable to vest itself in the 70 ministering angels. Only the Malchus, only the lowest part of the lower two worlds, is able to vest itself in those and to be revealed in the 70 ministering angels to give them the divine sustenance which is appropriate for them. And that's what the Talmud means when it says when the Jews were exiled to Edom, the Shekhinah went with them. That means when there was a need to give divine sustenance to the Jewish people, the time of exile, when the Jews are now living under the jurisdiction of the 70 ministering angels. So then the divine presence, the Shekhinah, which is the level of Malchus in the lower two worlds, we're not talking about Malchus and Atzilus or Bria, but Malchus, the way Malchus is in the lower two worlds, that level of Malchus has to be vested in the 70 ministering angels because the Jews are under their jurisdiction. And through those ministering angels, the divine flow can reach the Jews which are living in that area of the world, which is under that specific ministering angel. I know Dr. Bressman is thinking all about Biden right now. Dr. Bressman.
No, I'm not thinking about Biden.
Okay, good. Moving right along.
But that's not a bad analogy.
So getting to this statement in the Talmud. Talmud says when the Jews were exiled to Edom, the place of Edom, the Shekhinah went with them. That means it went literally with them. That means it was vested. The Shekhinah was in the place of, it adapted to, and it was an exile in the 70 ministering angels, literally. And the reason why only the lower levels of Malchus in the lower two worlds was able to, the reason why only the Malchus of Bria, of Yitzir and Asiya goes in the 70 ministering angels and not the Malchus of Bria, not the Malchus of Atzilus, is because it's known that in Atzilus, every world has a dominating sphere. The dominating sphere in the world of Atzilus is Abba. Abba means father, which also means the first sphere, the father of all the spheres, which is the sphere of Chacham. The main sphere of the world of Bria is Bina, understanding. The main sphere of Yitzira actually has a few. The 6 mides, the character traits, so to speak, the mode of character traits, they are the dominating spheres in the world of Yitzira. So it's known that the nourishment of Klippa in Kabbalah is called Chitzonim, the external ones, the ones who don't get from the deeper divine light. What is able to nourish the Klippa? Not Chachma. Chachma is beyond, Klippa can't get any nourishment from Chachma or from Bina. Only from the lower 7 spheres is it possible for a Klippa to latch onto and be nourished by. So therefore, Malchus of Bria does not descend to the 7 ministering angels. Because the world of Bria has Bina. Bina is not the 7 lower spheres. Bina is part of the 3 higher spheres. And another reason for this, why Bria and Atzilus can't do this, is because it says that the world of Bria is a place where there is a majority of good and very little evil. The world of Yetzirah is half and half. And the world of Asiya, this world that you haven't guessed yet, is a lot more evil. So therefore, the beginning of the place of Klippa, where can Klippa begin to take residence? Only in the world of Yetzirah, where there's half and half. But not in the world of Bria, where the majority is good. And that's why the 70 ministering angels are animated specifically by Malchus of Yetzira, not Malchus of Bria or Atzilus, where there's a revelation of there's nothing besides Hashem, and the Klippa is all about concealing and covering that truth. So now we can understand the great novelty of the second day of Yantif outside of Israel, where the divine light of Hashem is vested in the 70 ministering angels. Although in general, the divine light that goes in the 70 ministering angels is only from Malchus of Bria Netzia, of Yitzir Nasiya. In general, in that itself, there's an argument between the Arizal and the Ramak about how this works. The Ramak says, Ramesh Kardavari, the teacher of the Arizal, he says that the divine light of Atzilus doesn't the divine light of Atzilus is revealed in the 70 ministering angels themselves. According to the Arizal, the divine light of Atzilus is only revealed according to the Arizal, the divine light of Atzilus is not revealed in the 70 ministering angels themselves. It's only revealed in the Malchus of Yitzir Nasiya, which goes into the 70 ministering angels. In other words, Yantif means that something from Atzilus is being drawn down, something new from Atzilus. So according to the Ramak, the 70 ministering angels, they get that. According to Arizal, they can't get that. It goes into the divine energy of Malchus of Yitzir Nasiya, which goes into the 70 ministering angels, but they can't tap into Atzilus directly. Now can understand the great joy that happens on the second day of Yantif outside of Israel, more than the Simcha of Israel. Why is there more Simcha outside of Israel on the second day of Yantif? Like on our Simcha Stera that we just had, more than the Simcha in Israel, similar to a prince who is in chains. When he goes out to freedom and returns to his father the king to enjoy the delicacies of the palace, there's a great joy, more than if he would never been imprisoned. Because he was imprisoned, he has a much greater joy that when he's sitting all of his life on his father's table, doesn't have that joy. So too in heaven, so too spiritually, Malchus of Yitzir Nasiya, which are in exile in the 70 ministering angels, when they get something new from Atzilus, there's a tremendous joy more than their revelation of Malchus and Atzilus. Because there's a revelation now in a new place, in a lower, darker place. And that's the advantage of the Simcha of the second day of Yantif compared to the first day of Yantif in Israel. Because this first day of Yantif in Israel, they get the revelation of Atzilus as it is in Atzilus. On the second day of Yantif, this divine light of Atzilus descends into Malchus of Yitzir Nasiya, which is within the 70 ministering angels. And that's the meaning of Lecha. In order to reach the source of your neshama in the world of Atzilus, you have to journey from outside of Israel into Israel. Why? Because while you're outside of Israel, under the jurisdiction of the 70 ministering angels, all you get over there is Malchus of Yitzir Nasiya. You don't get the source of your neshama, you only get the way divine light descends to Yetzirah. But by going up to the Holy Land, which corresponds to Malchus of Bria and Atzilus, then you're able to get to the source of your neshama as it is in Malchus Atzilus. That's what Tzemach Tzedek says. Okay, I think we'll stop over here. But just don't make any tickets yet. We're still in the middle of the Maamar, and we'll see why divine inspiration has brought us to this city until Mashiach comes. Let's move today to Mashiach, but Kolzman doesn't happen. We got something to do with it.